So let's get started. I just want to say welcome to everyone that's joined us today, and I hope that you're able to get some good information in today's webinar on database maintenance. For those of you that are already one of our database maintenance customers, we're going to learn the exact processes that I go through and that are being ran on your database and what they do. And for those customers who are not currently database maintenance customers, hopefully you'll be able to get some more insight into the importance of database maintenance and what it can do for you. So what is database maintenance and what does it consist of? Database maintenance is a set of SQL jobs that we run on your database to ensure 1, optimal system performance, 2, data integrity, and 3, data availability. So why is database maintenance important to you? SQL databases require regular maintenance and monitoring. If your database or if database maintenance is not being performed regularly, then you can expect to see the following happen over time. Performance degradation over time. If certain optimizations that we run are not regularly ran on your database, you will start to see performance decreases over time, and lookups, queries will get slower. So we'll go into more detail in that in just a minute. Also, possible downtime due to data loss, corruption, or lack of disk space. And again, we'll go into that in more detail here in a few minutes. Okay, so this last point, I can't stress this one enough. Whether you're one of our database maintenance customers and we're doing the maintenance for you or not, someone needs to be monitoring and maintaining your database. A lot of customers kind of take a set it and forget it approach to their SQL server, and after they've implemented our software, they never touch the server again. And I've even had customers' IT departments tell me that, hey, I just installed SQL on there, the rest of it's up to y'all. So the one thing I want to stress is, unless you're one of our database maintenance customers, we are not monitoring your server. So that brings us to, what does database maintenance include? There are 6 different tasks that I run on your database. The first is a database integrity check, and all of these will go into detail here in just a minute. The second task is shrink database, rebuild indexes, a full database backup, a cleanup job, and a special inHANCE Reindex job. Okay. Also included in database maintenance is Diskbased monitoring. We watch for to see if you're running out of drive space. If you run out of room on your server on the drive where your SQL database or SQL log files are kept, your system will quit working. You will no longer be able to get into inHANCE, and until we free up space, you will be dead in the water, so to speak. So, and that has happened recently to one of our customers. The log files filled up the drive, and they came to a halt until they could contact us, we could get on their system and free up space for them. Also included with database maintenance are database migrations to new hardware. If you get a new server and need to move your database to the new server, that would be included free of charge with database maintenance. Otherwise, that is a service that costs a fee. So if you subscribe to our yearly database maintenance, that would be free and included. Okay, so the automated maintenance SQL jobs that are ran, it's the 6 jobs that we went over a while ago, and let's go more into detail for each one here. The database integrity check. So as you know, data corruption is very bad. It can cause all kinds of issues in your database that may include incorrect data results, failed SQL statements, and sometimes it can even take down your SQL instance. And the database integrity check is what warns us of corruption in your database so that we can fix it before it gets to the point where our only option is to restore your database from a backup. Now, this process runs 1 time a week on Sunday mornings. And what happens if errors are found during this process? If they are minor problems, they can normally be fixed through SQL. The problems don't happen that often. I'll kind of qualify that. I've been doing the database maintenance for like 1.5 years now, and I've only had a handful of instances where the database integrity check found something, and luckily we were able to just fix it through SQL without any problems. If you have a major problem that is found, sometimes it can possibly require restoring your database from a backup. So this is probably, out of the 6 jobs that are ran, probably the 2nd most important job that we run on your database. And we'll get to what the first most important one is in just a minute. Okay, so the shrink database process. The shrink database process compacts and removes the free space in your database and returns it to the operating system to increase the available disk space on your server. This job runs once a week on Sunday mornings, and although it could actually be ran a little less frequently than weekly, we go ahead and include it in the weekly maintenance. Most customer databases take several weeks or even months to create a very large amount of free space in their database. But if you have never ran this on your database, then it can sometimes free up a significant amount of space on your server. In the example there shown, we see a database that is approximately 315 gigs in size, and the space available that's free space is 44 gigs of free space that is not being used. So if we were to run the shrink database on this particular database, we could free up 44 gigs to go back and increase the server. It would go back to the operating system and increase your server space. Okay, the next process we run is the rebuild indexes process. So rebuilding indexes removes fragmentation in your database indexes. Over time, database operations such as insertions, deletions, updates through the software cause your data to become scattered in the database. So as a result, this causes inHANCE and any SQL application to become slower and slower when performing data lookups. And that is where this job comes in. Rebuilding the indexing logically reorders the records in your database to optimize data retrieval and lookups. So your queries become faster. This is also a process that we run one time a week on Sunday mornings. We actually have a couple of customers that requested for this to be ran daily. So they saw somewhat of a performance gain by doing that. So it's actually our biggest customer that we have. There are about 70,000 customers that they bill for. So, okay, so the next item that we run, and I hope you can see that I kind of wanted to stress this one. Your database backup is the most important thing that you can do in protecting your data. So if you do not have a recent backup of your database to restore from, you're running the risk of losing days, weeks, or even months of data if you had to restore from a backup. So the question for you is this: who is backing up your data? Obviously, if you're one of my database maintenance customers, I am, in monitoring and making sure it gets backed up. Otherwise, is your IT department backing up your database? And if not, do you know who is? Some customers assume that we're backing up their database, but as I said earlier, unless you're one of our customers, we are not monitoring or backing up your database for you. And just my experience over the past year, I have seen at least 2 or 3 instances where people were not backing up their database at all. So all I can do is I ran a backup for them and then mentioned to them that, hey, you really need to get that, you know, someone needs to be regularly backing this up for you. So the unexpected can happen at any time, and here are a couple of examples that we've had to deal with just this year in the past, well, one in the past few weeks and one earlier this year. The first customer 1, was hit with a ransomware attack, which took down their server, and it took almost a week to totally recover from. And that was luckily, well, I say luckily, they're one of our database maintenance customers, and we had a current backup to restore from. But still, the process, you know, it was totally unexpected. We had to restore their data to an alternate server while they rebuilt their production server, and then we had to migrate the data or the database back to the new server. So, of course, being down that long, you know, time is money. So, customer number 2 recently rebooted their server for regular maintenance. As you know, servers have to be rebooted every now and then to clear up memory and stuff. So they rebooted their server, and the operating system drive went bad in the process. It never came back up. So they were down for 2 days while rebuilding their server, and they also had a current backup that we could restore from. So these are just a couple of instances of things that can happen from, you know, anywhere from malware, viruses, or hardware failure. And honestly, hardware failure is probably what causes, it's the greatest cause of data loss. So you never know when your hard drive is going to go bad. Okay, just continuing on with the database backup. This job is ran every weeknight, Monday through Friday, after hours, approximately 8 p.m., which it gives time for most people to leave the office. So if you want it ran on weekends, you can request that from me. Normally we don't do that. I only have one customer that wants theirs ran 7 days a week, and that's because they actually work 7 days a week at their water district. So if you want that, you would need to request that from me. Otherwise, it's Monday through Friday. Normally, we keep 1 week of backups locally on your server if space allows. For the most part, everyone has enough hard drive space to keep 1 week of backups. We only have a few customers that space is so limited that we can only keep 2 or 3 days of backups. Now, the backups are stored on your local server drive, and local backups will enable you to restore in case of database corruption and in some cases of hardware failure if your backup is not located on the hardware that fails. So if your database and backup files are located on the exact same hard drive and that hard drive dies, then you really don't have a backup. So it's best, if possible, and we try to do this, keep the backup on a separate drive from your live database. I know it's not always possible to do that. You know, IT departments configure the servers in certain ways that they like, and we don't always have an extra drive to do the backups on. So, but if possible, you want to keep those on separate drives. Now, the best case scenario would be to have, in addition to your local backups that I do for database maintenance, some type of off-site cloud data backup service in addition to the local backups. We do have a service called iRecover-It, and you may have attended the webinar last month that Trey did for iRecover-It. It is our off-site cloud solution for disaster recovery. So worst case, if your server totally died, including your backup, local backup drives, you would still have a backup that you could restore from. So, okay, so let's move on to the next one, maintenance cleanup job. The maintenance cleanup job purges out old backup files. Obviously, if we just keep backing up, at some point the drive is going to fill up. So we have to purge the old files at some point. We normally only keep 1 week of backups, as I said, and for some customers that have a lot of disk space, we set it to 2, just in case. If they have, some customers have terabytes of extra storage, so keeping 2 weeks of backups is no problem for them. And the maintenance cleanup job cleans up old database backups once a week on Sunday nights. And the final process that we run is the inHANCE Reindex. It's very similar to the rebuild indexes job, except that it was specifically created by development and specifically targets your OASIS database for inHANCE and optimizes the indexes for our software. And this job is ran once a week on Saturday mornings at 2 a.m. Okay, disk space monitoring. Monitoring drive space, the reason we monitor it is to prevent downtime. As I mentioned earlier, if your data drive or log file drives fill up, SQL will stop working until we can free up space. So to prevent downtime, we monitor the space and make sure that the drives don't fill up. And as I mentioned earlier, some customers have to keep less than a week of backups due to their limited drive space. Okay, so that covers all of the processes that are ran. As I said, all the processes are automatically set up as jobs that run on your SQL server, and every night the information from the jobs uploads to me here, where I can I take that information, import it into my software, and compile it into the reports that you get once a week. If you're not a database maintenance customer, this is the report. What I'm about to show you is the report that I send out every Friday. If you are a database maintenance customer, this is going to look familiar to you. And now I do want to add, if you are one of our current customers, last week you may not have received your report until Monday, actually of this week, because my reporting server was down for a few days. So the information was not able to upload. So I just want to briefly go over the report here. Of course, it contains your company info and all that, and that's mainly for us to know. The OS version, that is something that we keep track of also. I want to highlight here. Right here, the hard drive information. So this is where you can see your local drives on your server, the disk size, and how much free space is left. This is in, you may be wondering, what number is that? What is that? That number is actually in megabytes. So you kind of have to convert it in your head. The report, honestly, it could be a little bit cleaner. It was written a long time ago, probably about 10 years ago, so the report could use a little bit, it could read a little bit better. So anyway, that gives you your free space, and you skip down here to the database information section, shows you all your databases on your server and the size of your database. Now, I think what most people look at, really the only information that most people look at this report to get, is the backup information. And let me go to my next slide. So the backup information, this gives you when your database was backed up and which one was backed up. So you can see here on the 10th, the 9th, the 8th, the 7th, that it was consistently backed up for this customer. And also it shows other jobs that ran. If your IT department sets up other jobs, I don't necessarily keep track of those or anything. The ones that I'm concerned about are your Oasis backup and your Oasis master backup. And also, if you are a GP customer or I1 customer, I also back those databases up, and those would be included on the report too. And finally, you'll see at the bottom the section that says jobs failed section. So you can see here the Harris DBM job is what uploads the data from your server to mine for reporting, and you can see that it failed a week ago. As I said, it was my reporting server was down for a few days. Okay, so really that's it. I've covered everything about database maintenance.